Mother's Day is happy Mother's Day to all of us.
Thank you.
Really, I'm although the 8th is the Women's Day, so it's a combination of the two in one day, which is fantastic. And so well done to all of you who organized this.
Thank
so,
you.
What are we here for? The Women's International Night Institute بعد كنا بعدين عززنا نقول لها نزل الكاتيو نعنا راح ديكون خا نتوم مسامة زلو كاسم نخنا استمرهم زل الناس سبات ويكونوا مهر سبات حدي بهتوت أحد خد زرقان خد ويليام برد يتفتح ولا قليل كما خد كنت مهر ويزح أنت آخر الدليل لومي 2015 we are celebrating Women's Day. مجمرتها مع تجمر نقول ما أصير 8th of March 1911. Can you imagine? 204 عمت. أبي كلنا خالت المدح. قناتها تنبلا. بزخوني لو هنا بعلو زلنا نتايم. Achievements of women who did so much so that we can get where we are today. So we have to carry on what they left into the next generation. I should say generations because it seems to be a long term. ناي بحكي نوح قرص إذا بس تدرب 204 عام تنتهي وسيلوس كتاب علمي احتلالنا قل نوح خوني لنا خاني تطوعيني نوح سلزنا مراحنتي قبرانا يكون كندي من الزيز تسوى على حوات الله عدتات الله كمان كنت زي خالنا اتاد يشتي من قبرانا خلك نبركتها مكألنا عمتاينا من جنبوز خب كذا عقب نبلوم نتم ودات سووتيو زيوم كعندك ناس سووتنا أبوتاتنا أحواتنا سلازي كاب كذا من جنب راحتنا خلينا عللو زي كونس يعني بحكي نتم ودات زلو مسانا أكبابنا انتي مسلكم بحسها مسحهم تساري حس زيادة دي مفرنا ندعملنا بخورا زي كونس بمرد دا سو إذا أحد راح بليدلي كالي بزح يومي تكنولوجي بزح عندنا في الناس اللي زيلو حتى أكون قبل نخليها أتليست ما عرفتي ويكا تاور حنا نارخش أبنا هنا بويبنا قرنا إيفنت قبل نخل وإيفنت لايف إيفنت كنا محللتنا خير أبنسكوت وين مدك أسئلة تقولات كنا يقولات أبغى نزلوا ليش هذا International Women's Day is my day. A day of your mom, your sister, your wife, your grandma fought so much for this day. كونا بالناسي حضرا كنا كان نجار and كأو حليفة زملاء اللي عزمت سزلوا جزء بحال أملاك تراخينا زيادة مرداتها كهذا الناس خيل كم يجرنا تنكالون زقوا رأس عم كبرنا بلون خيل بزبل من قدي وخنكيدنا حتى نجار كنذكرها لنا تنايل زرن ثيم كانوا سير 2015 theme it's empowering women is empowering humanity. أفتي ناي من قدي ناي بوليتيكال يكون سوشيال ايكونوميكال انت زي لنا كنا فرق أي خدم كم زحجي لنا يزلنا نحسب بورد روم تخيل فقط أتعمل سعدان سألينا يبين شهنا يكون قال يكون أقول ستيت بيلا ملئ بنت حنتي كلتك عدة تغيير لك أستاذ خبي قرعموني إلى العلاج الحر فوق كبار كوينو خسعر تخل no chance so we have to make sure we are on that table. It might take as long as it takes, it doesn't matter. It might take long as much as it did 100+ years. But let's not think for today only. What is next? What is from you to this lady? بأول خيدة آية قريبة فلت كنت فلاح المحكي نايبة حق عندي مستحق وسك أبيد أن يروز يخلوا في التحلي. Why? I'm sure each and everyone can produce as much. Allow me to say, if not more also. So why do we have to hide all that potential? بخدتنا تمرتي يونيفرسيتي زي بتحكى عصرت خلت ودا خاي خدون زي وين بإلمنتار زي أتخاي كلها نحن نقول نتأمل أبزخ قارة صفتو زي أبيها يحق زنا and happy Women's Day to all of us. Thank you.
I'm going to speak to you about my research. I did my undergraduate research for my history degree. I have done it on the role of women in the Eritrean liberation struggle. Obviously, I was born here, so I didn't know much about Eritrea. My parents fled the war and they came here. And we grew up in a household which was apolitical. So, and plus I have a grandma from Egypt as well. So every summer we wouldn't really go back to Eritrea. We knew more about Egypt than we did about Eritrea. So when I went to university and I found some courses that were about Eritrea, I was extremely interested, and especially because my professor, who was a British man, taught in the University of Asmara before the Civil War, before the border war again in '98. So I was really interested to understand why he went to Eritrea, how he even found out about Eritrea, because whenever anyone asks me where I'm from, they never know where Eritrea is. I have to refer to Ethiopia. But yeah, so if you look at the the slide there. So these are the list of abbreviations. There are so many when it comes up to Eritrean history. So if you familiarise yourselves with the terms, but the main things that you need to focus on are the Eritrean Liberation Front, Eritrean People's Liberation Front, which is nowadays the People's Front for Democracy and Justice, which is basically the Shabia, the ruling government. So the main two parties in terms of the whole liberation struggle is the ELF and the EPLF. So I'm going to refer to them as ELF, EPLF. So if you just bear in mind what they mean. So in case you get confused, because I got very confused in the beginning. And obviously you've got NEW, and then you've got National Union of Eritrean Women. So you've got Network of Eritrean Women and National Union of Eritrean Women. So a lot of the acronyms are very similar. But okay, so let's go back and down. Sorry. So for my research, I conducted a lot of interviews with former fighters, male and female, both from the EPLF and ELF, just to take their accounts of how things were, and just to see how men found their experiences of fighting alongside women, what equality was like, sexual violence, all these different things, and taboos and different things in terms of like living as a soldier and fighting during the struggle. So what one man said was, it's true that in the beginning, the female fighters, had difficulty with training, but they quickly overcame this. And when it came to the battlefield, they were like gazelles. They became better than us men. So a lot of the men just had praise for the women. They considered them as equal comrades. But it's very interesting to see that during the whole period, men and women were viewed as equal. However, after liberation, went back to the traditional patriarchal society, and they viewed women as inferior. So, yeah. This is just a bit of introduction saying, so obviously you know that the regime now is very oppressive. However, you shouldn't take this into consideration when looking at the whole struggle, because when you actually view the history of the EPLF, you see that the role of Isias is quite positive. What he promoted in terms of in the groups and in the guerrilla movement, the role of women and equality, different organisations that he'd introduced, like the National Union of Eritrean Women, that promoted women's rights, women's education, health reforms. These were amazing. Like reporters, the BBC, the West had seen this and thought like, wow, this is a huge advancement, especially for Africa. And in the times, you have to think about it, the war started in 1961. That's a long time ago, in the 60s. So when women were here fighting for equalities and for rights and all different things, what were they doing in Eritrea? You have to think about that. So it's very interesting, just to bear that in mind. Okay, so like I told you, the independence struggle started in 1961. Initially, the ELF dominated fighting force, but because of issues in terms of how Eritrea is, I'd say, organised in terms of ethnic and division. It's divided amongst ethnic and division lines. So this caused a lot of, I would say, arguments, and there was the emergence of splinter groups in the 70s. So, and that's how the EPLF came to be. If you look at this diagram here, it shows how the splinter groups emerged from the ELF, because that was the original dominant fighting group. So organisation. So you have the Abel, the PLF, and the Alat group, and then the Dankila group. And so there are those that opted out of joining from the ELF, were independent organisations, and then there were the other groups that joined the Alat and the Dankila, who became the EPLF, and with their leader Isias. So that's just a brief overview. That's great. Okay, so this is really interesting. The Eritreans, this is in the EPLF manifesto of 1987, says we are freedom fighters, we are not crusaders, we are Eritreans and not Arabs. Our stand is neither ethnic nor sectarian. The whole ideology of the EPLF was to say that they are Eritreans. They tried to go against the ELF by saying we are a non-sectarian group, we're not based on ethnic divisions or religious, because they would say that the ELF were predominantly Muslim. So they were like, their trajectory is quite different to the EPLF. So they would say that a lot of women did support this claim, a lot of men and women. But women, why did they join the war? Women basically were the main victims of Ethiopian occupation. They were raped, abused, used. One woman said that her father encouraged her to join. It's actually Khadija. Her father encouraged her to join because he said that he'd rather see her fight than marry an Ethiopian. It was quite a strong sentiment, and he wanted her to fight for her nation, just like the women were fighting for the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization. So this is this is amazing. When you think about that, someone of such a young age, I think she was 9 at the time, and she remembered the words of her father. So it's quite amazing when you find that a lot of Eritreans were persecuted, treated horribly. Villages were burnt down. When I spoke to women who told me that they've seen their families were shot and killed in front of them, women were raped, villages were burnt down, and this is what Eritreans had to go through, you know? And so many kids, just like you now, how you're seeing kids are fleeing off to join ISIS, it was like that. Me personally, I view it as that kids were running away from their family homes at night to join the ELF and EPLF to fight for freedom for their country. So it's quite amazing when you think about it. And back then, they didn't have technology to call and be like, you know what, I'm here. I'm with the ELF, EPLF, I'm safe, don't worry, I'm fighting for my nation. They just disappeared. And when these people come to look for them, you know, sometimes families were killed. I think there was one family, famous family, I think they had 10 or 11 people that were killed. I don't remember the family name. But it's quite a famous example, but inshallah I'll try to remember later. Yeah.
I do remember the name, the family was Mahmoud Ta'inna.
Yes, Mahmoud Ta'inna family, yes. Where they were 11 people were killed. Yeah, so it's tragic. So basically, obviously for any nation, war is a disruption of society and the gender roles, where obviously the traditional gender roles are not balanced anymore. So there are new burdens and increased responsibilities on women. At that time, it's also a bit more rights to what they had previously that they would enjoy because of this situation. So war can be seen as something as oppressing women, but at the same time liberating them, if that makes sense. So you could say that this somehow empowered them, but it was also overshadowed by losses that women endured, such as prevention of access to education and medical services. And obviously this happened in Eritrea until women started joining these organisations such as the ELF and the EPLF, because they were trained alongside women. They would sleep alongside men, they would eat with them, they would share the same responsibilities, they would fight on the front line just like them. So they were seen as equal. So it's really interesting. So this picture is very interesting. I don't know if you can point out who is the woman.
Yeah, the one in the front.
Yeah, you can see, but she looks very masculine, to be honest. So that did cause a few problems, I think, post-liberation for women. They had, in terms of identity crisis, they were seen somewhat as genderless to some people because they were neither man, neither woman. Imagine that sort of expression tickling your head, because imagine it being very rude. So like she's like, you know, I don't know the word term, but she's neither man, she's neither woman, she's somewhere in the middle, you know, because of all the masculine qualities that she's adopted and the freedoms that she's enjoyed. So, and that was a woman in the EPLF, digging trenches alongside men, but at the same time you can look at that picture and see that it's amazing because she was doing an equal job as to her male comrade who was right behind her, so it's quite good. Yeah, so many of the women and men that I interviewed, many of the women from the ELF and EPLF said that there were no distinctions in terms of ethnic, religious, class differences between all the different women and men, which is interesting because when historians look at it now, they claim that all the different groups were based on ethnic divisions, religious lines and stuff like this, but the actual people who were fighting for the causes say that they didn't view this, they didn't experience this when they were actually in the guerrilla movement.
I think there is an element, when you look back in history, you look at it from the viewpoint of now.
Yeah.
And what we tend to forget is, when you look at history, you have to look at the economic, the political, the social time. What was it at that time?
Yes.
Because you can't look at the back with present eyesight. It's wrong.
Yes.
It doesn't do it justice.
Yes, I agree completely. And that's why when you do view the situation of women in the liberation struggle, you see that it's quite amazing, it's astonishing what freedoms they enjoyed in terms of the liberation movement. Not, I wouldn't say the women in society, but women who actually joined the movement. So it's quite amazing here. So those that say that the ELF women were traditional fighters, they didn't, a lot of people argue that they didn't fight on the front lines like the EPLF women, or they didn't, it was based mainly on religious lines. There's pictures such as this to prove that women were, you know, they were singers, they were fighters, you know. So I love this picture because it was encouraging, you know, morale and support for those fighters, and it's you see they've got unkept hair and their afros, and it's lovely to see how uniform they are. It is, right? I can imagine they're having fun. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, you know both you know.
Yeah, the middle. The second one.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, it's round.
Yeah. I don't even know who that is, but it's amazing that you do know that. And that's in 1977.
I used to celebration.
Did you?
It's really famous.
That's an old picture.
Yeah, this is
he sings some Tigrinya, isn't it? Yeah, I can't remember if he
Maybe fancy.
Yeah.
It's good.
You were here a couple of times.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay. So you have to think about back then also traditionally it was I don't think it was common for women to be out there openly singing. It was quite
it wasn't a done thing.
It wasn't a done, it was ayb. So it was how is that?
It was a shame.
Yeah, it was a shame, it was taboo. So when you see here it's both men and women singing, it's, you know, they're breaking those taboos, they're breaking those barriers, and they were doing that in 1970, you know, 1977. So that's quite amazing. Also here, this is quite interesting. This was very interesting because in terms of marriage laws, there was a marriage law that was introduced in the EPLF. So remember that was one headed by CS. That you could marry your comrade, regardless of religious or ethnic group. If you think back then, or even now, up until the 90s, people had issues with people marrying different tribes and stuff, like a Saba would have to marry a Saba, if you married, you have to whoever, or a Tigray or something. But back then, it was okay. It was in the EPLF, it was allowed. You were allowed to marry whoever you want. However, on the flip side, I've interviewed people who, because of this, are lost, slightly, I think lost. They have a parent which is, for instance, Muslim, and a father which is Christian, or vice versa, and they're confused. their identity is slightly confused. They don't know where to go, which way to follow, you know, and sometimes they feel shunned by a certain group or the other group, you know. So I feel like that's something that has come out of the EPLF marriage law. Although I think it was positive, that it did break down a lot of barriers. But on the flip side, I think the children did slightly suffer because of that.
And I think that's because society rejected them.
Yes.
And the problem with us Eritreans is, instead of understanding and saying these ones were a product of this thing, we prejudge, and the kids then suffer as a result of that.
100%, because women have told me when they went back into society, many men who had married, for instance, a Christian man married a Muslim woman, or a Muslim man married a Christian woman, were forcibly told to divorce their spouses. So there were many broken families because as a result of this. And it's horrible, again, not thinking about the kids, and because of such a, I think, slightly backwards mentality, it did leave a lot of broken kids and families, so which is wrong. Another amazing thing was, you have here the figure of the ELF, mothers and their babies. So think about this, you know how you have work here, you've got maternity leave, you can go look after your kids, you know, this is exactly the same thing, this is
EPLF.
Is this EPLF? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. EPLF for kids and their babies. And
Mothers and their babies.
Yeah, the same.
no, it says ELF. I thought it was ELF when I checked the link. But it could be EPLF. But they're all the same people anyhow. But it's just like you're fighting for the same cause. But it's amazing when you think that the women were able to have their maternity leave, look after their babies for a while, take care of them, and then they can also go back and join the fight, the cause, the struggle. Although not also not straight away, but you know, their kids were there, they were brought up in the Maidan, and there are many of those people that have been brought up in the Maidan that are here now today that I was able to interview as well, and they loved it. They loved growing up there. They didn't know anything else but the struggle. So, but I think it's quite amazing when you think that there is maternity leave for women fighters. You know, people are actually debating nowadays in America and the UK regarding women fighters and debate in terms of women fighting on the front line and maternity leave and so on. They conquered this a very long time ago.
The funny thing is, especially with the ELF, and later on subsequently certain things the EPLF did, they brought lots of laws which were very progressive, even by European standards.
Yes.
You know?
It's very funny, yeah.
Back in the 60s, the laws that they brought out the ELF, it was more progressive than what you had here.
Is it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
That was the interesting.
It's interesting because it's like, what are the reasons later on that made them regress and go back to being backwards patriarchal society, when they had advanced far beyond Europe and the Western world. And then it was a model, literally, it was a model for the rest of the world. And so everybody had high hopes for Eritrea and thought it was so positive, one nation that will come out of the guerrilla war positively, but the opposite happened. Okay, so one woman has said, how can society change when discrimination is ingrained in society? Any daughter looks up to her father with love and admiration, yet they tell them that they are undeserving of education because they will soon be married off. I think this is something true within the Eritrean society. Like you were saying, there's a lot of discrimination, gender discrimination, and so women did not have access to a lot of education. However, again, during the struggle, the activities of the National Union of Eritrean Women and also the GUEW, was there? General Union of Eritrean Women, they promoted education, educational issues, health reforms, trying to educate those women also in the villages outside of the actual guerrilla struggles, going to them and trying to educate them about different things, you know, giving them basic education, reading and writing. This was amazing if you think about it, trying to reform a nation, because like Lul was saying earlier on, that, you know, the woman, she's the basis of all humanity. If you educate women, you educate all of humanity. Yeah. So it's really important. I think that was really good also. I'll sum up very quickly. So here you've got an example of women in the first National Congress in the ELF, discussing women's rights, women's issues. So it's like you have a designated organisation to address just women's issues. Women are fighting for that still nowadays. So if you think about it, like you were saying, the reforms were so progressive, but it's just a shame that it's all. It's a shame that it's nothing now. Although they have this still the National Union of Eritrean Women, it doesn't really have much power. It doesn't do much. It's just a puppet, really. Here again, there's the ELF women in the Second National Congress. So the revolution shall protect. Revolutionary state shall protect rights of women.
Second National Congress held in Allied.
Yeah.
Revolutionary
Revolutionary
state shall protect rights of women and workers.
Women workers.
And workers.
Yeah, so it's amazing.
To protect the rights of women and workers.
Wow. Yeah.
So the vision.
The vision was amazing. When you think about how advanced the vision was, it's amazing. I just love looking at all the old photos. This subject was a bit of a taboo for me. When I was trying to record, interview women, there had obviously violence occurs in war, whether it's rape, sexual harassment, spousal abuse, sexual exploitation, FGM, etc. Of course, it's going to happen in Eritrean society, but it's such a taboo that people don't want to talk about it. So it was quite difficult to get people's anecdotes of what had happened. They would tell me about other people, but not themselves. For instance, it was interesting. They would say that initially in the EPLF, before you could join, they had some virginity tests. That they would conduct as a part of the military training course. And women didn't even understand why this occurred. One woman who was actually part of the EPLF, she did admit that that happened, but later on tried to defend them for doing it. Also, there were those couples that had relations outside of marriage. For instance, in the ELF, they were stoned to death.
Oh.
Yeah, I was given an anecdote of a couple being stoned to death for doing that. Other people in the EPLF were punished, and they were humiliated basically in front of everybody for doing that. So there were very strict policies, I found, to be honest. There were strict policies in terms of relations.
I knew there was very strict. I didn't really know it went that far.
I think that was a one-off incident, to be honest.
But I knew, especially the EPLF, they later on relaxed it, but they had extremely strict rules on relationships.
Yeah.
APLF.
Yeah, they had very strict. Later on, they relaxed it, and I think that's because as the war became longer, then they realized, there needs to be children being brought up. But that's why they changed.
Yeah. There was a woman who was in the, I think she was in the EPLF and left the EPLF during the ELF. She told me that they rounded up all the recruits, and there were about 1,000 of them or so, and they were explained to, basically there were two obviously that had relations, and it was explained to them what they had done. So basically they publicly humiliated them in front of all the other recruits and soldiers. Imagine how that must have felt for the couple. Yeah, that's humiliation. And then when I was told you that they were killed, basically they made an example of them by killing the man. They found out that the woman was pregnant. They waited until she gave birth, and then they killed her too. So it was very strict. In the beginning, it's obviously a regime. You have to think about it in terms of military tactics. They need to put people in line and control them. So I guess they made an example of them. But there were harsh punishments.
Well, I think if it is their rationale then was we're in a war. If people start disobeying, it'll all go to pot.
Yeah, I agree.
But it is harsh.
It is it was very harsh. So women after the war. So now I'm going to talk about demobilization. Just to sum up. The slogan during the war period was equality through equal participation. So it endorsed the breakdown of gender barriers and recruited lots of women. But post-conflict, this varied a lot. It didn't even happen. So it was just like upon returning back, women were perceived in society as many of the women that were recruits as, like I said, genderless, neither men nor women. They came back into society with their afros and their army gear, and obviously in Asmara you'd find lots of women. They had their hair done nicely, they were in Azuris, they look very pretty, and so, not that the other women don't, but the men, their comrades, divorced a lot of these women, and not only just divorced them, a lot of them weren't even interested in marrying their comrades. Instead, they went to these women, the ladies who were originally Asmara, who were very like, you know, sit till bed, and she was a, you know, she knew, yeah. So it was just like they basically, the men themselves betrayed the women. So I think it started off with the men. They betrayed their comrades and everything that they were taught, whereas they should have set the example and looked after them. Exactly. But they didn't do that. And many women were made barren because of injuries that they sustained during the war, so they couldn't have kids, and those that were disabled, and they were left with nothing. A lot of women were left with nothing, and no psychological help for all the trauma that they endured. This is 30 years of war. Imagine on a daily basis seeing people dying, starving, travelling from here, feeling that you're going to die on a daily basis, and then after that you're left to say, okay, yeah, we're liberated and there's nothing for you, no support, no demobilisation pay. Some people could have said that they had demobilisation pay, but it was not continuous. You know, maybe one-off payments or so.
A lot of them were, when I did my research in Eritrea, I was told a lot of them got 10,000 birr.
Yeah.
For demobilisation. It was a one-off payment. And don't forget, they were in the field. Yeah. They didn't know what money was, and a lot of wrong people stole the money of these women, and they were left with nothing and their babies. And once their money was taken by wrong elements who told them they would invest their money, their money was gone. And what law do you have to go and claim your money?
Yeah. No housing.
No, nothing.
No support. Nothing.
A lot of them. Lost a lot, 10,000 nakfa they were given per woman, and a lot of them lost their money.
And it's even, imagine, like, a lot of people that were given money were EPLF women. So although, because obviously there was a civil war during the war, and obviously the EPLF became the dominant fighting force, the ELF were pushed out to the sides, and mainly they fought from Sudan. So all these women and men that fought got nothing after the war, after liberation. If anything, after liberation, the EPLF went to go and attack them. Yeah, instead of thinking, you know what, we all fought for the same cause. Yeah, but no, they so a lot of women, they spent many years fighting and they got nothing, no gratitude, no nothing, and they're stuck in Sudan and they can't come back into Eritrea. But it is estimated that 80% of demobilised women ex-fighters lacked appropriate resources, skills and jobs for civilian life. So social reintegration was a big issue for them. Lack of housing, and it was difficult. Not many people could go back to their families, and not many families accepted them also because of the lax nature of the field life. They had this negative stigma for women that fought. Again, economic problems with economic reintegration also, because they had a lack of money. But what was interesting was this. These are discharged female soldiers taking lessons on sewing. This is by the UN, was it the UN?
National Union of Eritrean Women. They run courses on sewing, on typing.
Yes. This was taken by, I think, a representative of the UN or something when they went back to Eritrea after demobilisation. But there was few courses for women, but there were not enough to accommodate all the women. No. This is just an example of some women that were able to get...
And you know the very basic concept, when you are in the field, you are all given clothes. You don't know the value of money, what money buys. They don't have any business skills, job skills.
Yes.
And then you come, you say, here is independence, no job, no skills. And they are left with, their husbands are dead and they are left with 3 children.
Yeah.
To bring them up on what?
It's true, because I think a lot of people forget that they actually went into the struggle as young kids, teenagers.
Exactly.
So they don't know nothing about life, you know, and they spent maybe 30 odd years in the fighting field. So that's your whole life. You only know the Medan, and when you leave it, you don't know nothing about society. So it's very, very difficult. So women are still enduring trauma here in the UK. Women that I've interviewed, when I was speaking to one lady who told me about what had happened and how she was left with nothing when she was in Eritrea and begging in the streets. She was crying. I felt bad after interviewing her because I felt like I opened up all these emotions that she had inside her. But from another perspective, I thought that perhaps it was therapeutic for her to actually speak out about it, because it's still, until this day, 20 years on, a lot of women that were female fighters don't have the support, don't know what they've gone through, was actually an immense amount of trauma, and I haven't spoken to people about it. You know, post-traumatic stress disorder, I'm sure many people are going through it, but they don't realise that there's help out there, or don't realise that they've got something wrong with them, and they're shunned from society. But, yeah. So just generally to sum up, I just think that the women in the Liberation Front, both in the ELF and EPLF, enjoyed freedoms, and there was a lot of advancement in education, reform, equality with men, gender equality. However, this was all taken back post-liberation because of Eritrea's traditional society, extremely patriarchal, hasn't changed until this day. It's such a shame, but hopefully with organisations such as this, we can, you know, remember the women fighters and teach our sisters and their family about Eritrea, because I only learnt this in university through books and conducting interviews. I didn't know about it, but when I found out that women accounted for 33% of the fighting force, 33%, a third, that's amazing, that's a lot. That's a huge amount. I didn't know any of this, but I felt so proud after it, and it made me really interested in Eritrean affairs. And when I spoke to my other people about it, other friends, and no one knows nothing about what happened in the war, it's a real shame, because that's 30 years. 30 years of war. And with Eritrean society, 100% everybody's got a family member that was involved in the war. So, you know, we're linked to it somehow or another. We're all here because of it. So I think it's really important that we teach our sisters and our family members about the role of women in the Liberation War, and what women have done, and how we can help these women now and advance, you know, our causes and take the opportunities that we have here. Don't take it for granted. We should do things, you know, with it to help people back home also, predominantly, I think. Yeah, that's it. That's it.
The role of women, the narrative,
yes,
was written by men during the ELF and the EPLF era. And because of the lack of Eritrean women's political participation at the higher levels, this is why we have gone backwards. We should understand this now and start pushing for our rights,
yes,
by ensuring that we participate and that we set what our needs are. Not that we get told by men what our needs are, but we need to say the issues of education is important. The issues of these are, you know, all the things that matter to women in their lives, we need to set the agenda. Because unless we set the agenda for ourselves and we don't talk for ourselves, nobody's going to help us.
I agree. I completely agree. I also, to a certain extent, while doing this research, I personally perceived the only, I know this sounds bad, but I felt like the only reason women were allowed or inclusive of the liberation struggle was because of the small population of Eritrea.
Absolutely.
Had they not had the women, they wouldn't have been able to fight with Ethiopia.
No.
So they had to include women, they had to promote, they had to attract them. Do that, I did, yeah, through gender equality and all these reforms, you know, so I felt like they were used, you know, they were used and abused and then later on left, so I think it's a horrible, the way that things happened.
After that reminds me of the first, I think I can't remember if it's the First or Second World War.
Yeah.
Before that, women were, you know, stay at home, look after the kids, very, very typical traditional roles.
Yeah.
And then when all the men went out, suddenly, you know, the UK realized, oh, we don't have anyone to work in the factories, and we don't have any, you know, all the roles that are traditionally taken by men. No men were around. No. So they actually told the women to come out because we need people to manufacture the weapons. We need people to go into the factories to make clothes and stuff. And the women suddenly experienced a whole new, it was exactly because they were doing roles that they never experienced, and they were given opportunities. But what happened when the war ended? All the men came. The women were like, okay, thank you very much, go back to where you were.
Yeah.
And that was a shock to their system. Suddenly they're thinking, oh, what was it about then?
Yeah.
You just needed, exactly what you said. The women were that's what there was in my head. They probably let women in and they gave them all these rights because they needed people, they needed fighters.
Yes.
And regardless of being men or women. The same here, they needed manufacturers, they needed workers, they needed doctors and teachers.
Yes.
To allow women, once you don't need them, just push them back.
The women
And you had a huge struggle in the UK after the Second World War as a result.
Yeah.
And in fact, a lot of the soldiers that came back from the Second World War, they separated from their wives, but they came back as well. There was a lot of, exactly what you see in Eritrean society, there was that breakdown of families.
Yeah. Because they came back expecting, you know, how my wife was before I left the war, but her experiences clearly changed her.
Of course.
So when he comes back, he's kind of clash. What's happening here?
Exactly.
It didn't work out.
I have a question for you. How do you think you can, I mean, reach women's and your generation and Iman and Rowan's generation and take them on? Yes, we try, but yours was really. As a mom, I don't have time to research and show her or them bit by bit, just like, oh, okay, this one.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, how do you think?
I was personally telling, I think it was Khadija, I was telling before, I actually wanted to go to the community and do a presentation to the kids and to the girls to explain basically the liberation struggle of Eritrean history, how their country came into being. Because I feel like for many households, because of the current political situation, many households are apolitical, they don't discuss politics, they don't get their kids involved in these things, so subsequently they don't teach them about Eritrean history, you know? So I think that's a big mistake, because hopefully one day Eritrea will get better, and then none of the kids will go there to improve the country because they don't have any association to their country. They don't know nothing about the Turkish, and they're not going to want to improve it if they don't know nothing about the history of it. So I think it is important for those of us that do know to be able to teach our kids first in the house. But if we do have a program where we can actually gather all the kids and then do something like this to make them more interested in their country, because if I personally feel that one thing that the PDFJ is good at is gathering the youth and educating them about Eritrea and making them love their nation. This is something they're very good at with the young PDFJs. I actually wanted to attend one of their conferences just to see how they do it. But they're very good at making the kids love their country. Having Eritrea, they go back every year, they go to the Sour festivals, they raise money and funds to send back home. So I feel like we need to do something positive, obviously not like that, but in a positive nature, to make our kids love Eritrea in the same way, and to teach them to do things, maybe have projects and teach us in a village somewhere and build a well, and then we get involved in these things, you know? I feel like,
and I think supporting Eritrean women refugees,
Yes.
supporting Eritrean women here, that's a big role. You know, if we are doing that, then we can say, even to the opposition or to the government, this needs to be addressed for Eritrean women. But until we start taking charge of that and we start doing things, then you can say, support us in this benefits this for this reason.
I agree. I think though that if there were women like this that are here today who are open-minded, then we could do this. But a lot of Eritrean women are not. If a woman, asylum seeker, comes now and explains what happened to her, she doesn't even want to do that because she knows that Eritrean people are so judgmental. And it's, as soon as she tells them, okay, I was raped, I was in cell, this happened to me, automatically, she's like this or whatever, let's stay away from her. Or she may have any mental health issues because of escaping all that trauma. She's shunned from everybody because as if she's infectious, like you can catch these things. I don't think that we are as supportive.
No,
we don't have a support network. Maybe we are ignorant of that. I think we need a bit of training how to support Eritreans, although there's so many of us here and then we've been here for more than almost 20 years, a lot of us. I think that it's quite late, but we should have a support network for these asylum seekers and make them feel confident and comfortable enough to be able to open up and seek support with their other Eritrean sisters, and set an example. I think that if kids do see why people are fleeing or running away, and actually have the first-hand accounts of these people, then maybe they will wake up, and feel like...
Absolutely. But I think before you bring people like that to talk, we need to change, if we are going to gather us, we need to change our mindset to listen to these people. Because like you said, if somebody is judgmental, you're not going to want to talk, you're going to run away from them.
Yes.
So sometimes we are our own worst enemies.
Yeah.
I agree.
Thank you. He brought so many memories.
That's the thing. When these memories are like
Even
that.
when you said the woman you interviewed her was crying, I was about my. I mean, my heart was like, oh.
That's the thing that hurts me, because I feel like a lot of these women have been, not just women, men as well, 30 years of trauma, and then to leave it and act like you're normal is difficult. You cannot suppress all these feelings. You need to speak to somebody about it, you know? Just let it out so that you can move on with your life and move forward, because it's going to hold you back. You know, and obviously you're going to have some sort of emotional attachment to it. It's natural, but when you can't move forward on life, or when you're deeply depressed, or you have issues because of it, then I think that seriously it's
Mental trauma is something that's we put underneath the table. It doesn't happen. It happens to everybody, but not Eritreans. You know, that's the psychology that we have.
Like to have some.
Yeah, and yeah.
Thank you so much. قضية الوعي قضية المرأة تولد من سميم المواجهة العنيفة في المجتمع، وكان ميلاد الوعي صعبا وعسيرا. كلف رائدات الحركة النسائية في إريتريا كثيرا من المعاناة الاجتماعية والنفسية. يعني لما بدأوا مثلا ينخرطوا في العمل الثوري والسياسي، ما كان عادي بالنسبة للمرأة إنه مثلا تشارك في الثورة، تمشي. كانوا بيقولوا لهم مثلا يشوفون زي المارقات، يعني هذولا خارجات عن العادة والتقاليد والأشياء هذه وكذا. ونحن في إريتريا بحاجة أكثر من غيرنا لمواجهة التحديات التي تواجهنا سواء كان في داخل أو خارج إريتريا. وذلك لقناعتنا إن مسيرة التغيير والتنمية لن تتحقق إلا بمشاركة فعالة بجانب المرأة كما عهدناها من قبل الاستغلال. يعني المرأة من قبل الاستغلال، أنا أتذكر ونحن صغار، يعني كنت أقولها لآية رجعت لي أشياء كثيرة في هنا. كان في حركات نسائية كثيرة، محضر الانستيو فضحت نيرو ويسمع نيرو وأديتها تيري خداي حسباية بلا ملة. يعني الأشياء هذه كلها بس حجي بعد الاستغلال، زي ما قالت أبا خيدو ما نعرف راح فين، ما عارفة. فالمشاركات اللي كانت، يعني وضع المرأة في إريتريا لا يختلف كثيرا عن بقية الشعب. المعاناة اللي بتعانيها مثلا المرأة ما بيختلف عن بقية الشعب. بس السؤال اليوم الذي نحتفل فيه بدور المرأة ونضالاتها من أجل التحرر، هل كان من أجل المساهمة في تحرير الأرض فقط؟ يعني زي ما ذكرت آية مثلا استخدموا المرأة عشان إنه يحرروا وعايزين ومحتاجين، يعني هل كان دورها بس إنه بس تحرر الأرض ومش الإنسان؟ وما الذي تحقق؟ ويقدر المجتمع الإريتري للمرأة الأدوار والتضحيات التي قدمتها في مرحلة ما قبل الاستغلال، حيث ساهمت وأنجزت في تحقيق الاستغلال، وكانت دائما تتطلع أن تجد مكانتها في الدولة الجديدة بقدر ما قدمت من تضحيات. يعني ضحت كثير جدا بدمها، نفسها، وكل غالي ونفيس بأهلها، بأخوانها، بمجتمع، يعني بمفاهيم مثلا ما راعت إنه مثلا بعد الاستغلال كيف حيستقبلوها، كيف حيتقبل المجتمع المرأة. التضحيات هذه كلها في المقابل إيش كان؟ ما وجدت يعني الشيء اللي يقابل تضحياتها. والمرأة السامدة وذات الكرامة الشامخة التي كانت تطارد فلول الدرك في جبال إريتريا، فاليوم هي بائعة الشاهي، العلكة والهواء في شوارع إريتريا. يعني هذه المرأة اللي كنا بنشوف صورها اللي كانت تنادل تحفر بجانب الرجل وتعمل كل الأشياء اللي كان يعملها الرجل، وكانت تطارد العدو في الجبال وفي أي شيء وفي الغابات. اليوم هي بائعة شاهي عشان تلاقي رزقها وتربي عيالها وتبيع علق لبان والهواء في الشوارع يعني، وتريع نفسها عشان تكسب يعني، ما عندها مكسب ولا أي شيء. وذلك بجانب معاناة اللجوء، معاناة اللجوء وكلنا نعرف وسمعنا عنها يعني، وأكيد كل بيت في إريتريا كمان عنده طرف أو فرد عانى من معاناة اللجوء. الوضع الاقتصادي، الصحي، التعليمي. يعني المرأة بدل ما إنه مثلا تحاول تطور نفسها وتشوف همها الأول والأخير حيكون لقمة عيشها اللي هي حتبيع اللبان والشاي والأشياء هذه اللي حتلاقيها وتبيع نفسها. التعليم هذا آخر همها. وهنالك العديد من الانتهاكات والإساءات والعنف في جميع أشكاله وصوره ضد المرأة في جميع مراحل حياتها. يعني يبدأ بالختان مثلا، العنف الجسدي، اللفظي، الإساءات، التحرشات الجنسية، والطلاق وما يترتب عليه. الطلاق هذا كمان لحاله في قائمة، يعني عايز له يوم كامل وصفحة كاملة لحالها. يعني اللي ما يترتب ما بعد الطلاق، المشاكل اللي بتعانيها المرأة، يعني مطلقة خلاص، السمعة ما لازم تعمل شيء، بس اللهم إن هي مطلقة خلاص سمعتها، أولادها، المجتمع ما يتقبلها، الناس يعني معاملة ما هنا يعني. والحرمان من التعليم، تحرم من التعليم في مناطق كثيرة. لسه ما زالت المرأة تعاني من الحرمان في التعليم. الحرمان التعليم، الخدمة العسكرية، الأهالي بدأوا إنه يفضلوا المرأة بدل ما تتعلم لا تتزوج عشان ما تمشي الخدمة العسكرية. وده كمان يترتب عليه أشياء كثيرة خالص، تخلفها، يعني تتخلف من التقدم، الإنجازات، أشياء كثيرة. وكل هذه السلوكيات مهينة للمرأة، وهناك آثار كثيرة تترتب عليها هذه الممارسات السلبية. يعني حتكون دائما محبطة، خائفة ومكتئبة، وغير الإعاقات النفسية اللي حتعيشها المرأة. ويجب على المرأة من أجل أن تأخذ دورها الحقيقي في المجتمع أن تفجر كفاءاتها الفكرية والعلمية وترفع مستواها الثقافي، لأنه كلها أسباب تؤدي إلى تهميشها وتخلف وضعها في المجتمع. وأن تدرك قيمتها الحقيقية كإنسان له مطلق الحقوق لكي يمكنها مواجهة التحديات العملية نحو نمو أكبر ونضج أعمق يثمر في شخصيتها وعلاقاتها، والأهم في تربية الأجيال القادمة. وهذا الدور الأكبر. يعني أننا أتيح لنا فرص كثيرة جدا، بس أتمنى إنه إحنا كمان ما ننسى ونتذكر أمهاتنا وأخواتنا اللي ساهموا ونادلوا وضحوا بأشياء كثيرة وكانوا ضحية لمفاهيم وعادات ما ذنبهم يعني. فهذا الشيء أقول لكم كمتي نسا كنت نسا
مسواتي
قبرتو مسواتي من نفسها بقواتا ولا أتي مجتمع يعني أي حسبت ندخوني خميك خوني جن يعني تمين قول نيرو تنتعشمو يعني كنت قالس نات أخذت هذا قلت قاليسا نات أوتي هاجر مسوت راي نيرو تي قال نستيتي تقالس لنا برد ولا خالق كمان نيرونا خالق نيرونا كنت في آية كتر إنها تنحر بزوج نيرو in the 1960 بنبرد تاشمي دحر زخلو جيرا كتقادل كلها قبوتاتنا إرترا تسقيلا كعيتا حارسة وليدة أعدية أبيلا تقبر نبرت حجك أريالا شوارع ناي أسمرة ماستيكات شيء كوفيلا نفسات شيء لنزل تركب لجوء تخيد داشم سدد كتبل دقينا خلايك غالسي أتكارس دلا لكن وقينا حتى أي بلد أجي أنا كمان أتمنى يعني كلنا بحساب زي السعير منا أديتنا أبزد صحنا قواتنا كلنا بحساب حجاجنا خمسة آيات كله تسمحت تاخذ كلتنا بدو قلنا نقبر أنا بحر روس قبرك إليه روز غيره يحجز حنان كسف نحكي إلى سيف يحجز يعني لنا نات حجاجنا إذا خير السعنا ندق نسيو كان معبر نبدل لنا يعني. Thank you.
A lot of things from you guys, and I say it in Ukrainian. Yeah. I mean, قبل ما عاد ما يعرف ذكرت القناة الفلتة. Basically, yeah, from the hotel home to work here, الناس معهم. They gave so much, and they get nothing in return. And I think. Like basically, we don't give a lot of credit that they have now. Once miskada and yeah, they like us in the is just when hanti I تخفل عن راسي. At least حجين هنا هم ذكران وإنك أني نتي ناتنا بركتو وإن كانت تاريخ كان قلت تخيلنا لا كان بي yeah that's all.
Hello. Okay. Point.
Point قلنا دك أنا سلو جلسة أخونا نسيس.
عطيته تو يوم برد إحنا دك نسيت. هيدا عطيته تو النمبر لوني. إحنا بونس.
Well, we made them, so I know.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. This is one that got published in the Voice newspaper. So I don't know. I'll read that. Yeah. I saw the reflection in the clear blue water. I did not like the water I saw. I saw a rugged face, hard and angry with half a smile. I saw the eels laugh out. I saw the tortoise swim away. I looked and walked up the sandy hills on the beach. I ran calling to this person I saw. Slowly he walked away, not looking back to see, calling and yelling out. A name maybe someone may hear, maybe just someone will come. Come to know that I exist, come to know that all's not well, come to know that time will pass when once again I can see your reflection. That's a nice word.
لندن كابس مصحف تلفه ما أقول أنا نفسي شاعرة ما شاعرة لكن يعني بشخبط أحب أكتب وأشياء وكذا يعني ف زي بزعبة وطن يعني احتار غلمي بماذا يوصفك ما بك يا غلمي مرتبك وحائر قال غلمي إني أعجز عن التعبير فأخاف أن أغسر في حق غاليتك فعندما طلبت مني أن أكتب تمنيت أن يكون حبري من ذهب لربما أوفي من بعد حقها عليك فحبري رخيص وقد علمت إنها نبض قلبك فقلت لغلمي أما علمت بأن الحب عطاء بلا حدود عذرا يا غلمي نسيت أن أعلمك بأنها قيمة في الأخلاق والتواضع فأنت تمنيت أن يكون حبرك ذهبا فأنا تمنيته لو كان دما فقال غلمي متأسفا حدثني عن إريتريا الوطن، فقلت هي إريتريا من أعادت لي الأمل وأداءت لي دربي. هي إريتريا من آذرتني في أحزاني وجعلتني ابتسم. هي من تحملت ثقل همومي وأعطتني القوة والسر. هي من سمعت لي وعلمتها بأسراري وزرعت دربي أمل من كل النواحي. إريتريا إريتريا إريتريا. فبالتقرير هحاول أشرحها. بزعبة between me and my pain. لا تزاربنا إنا بزعبة هجري. كتصحف نادا لكم هناتي شيء قبل جميرو نمنتاي لأنه بزعبة هجري تعرفت وا سلاد الصحف دلهم نمنتاي إلى مسحاتكوا يعني إتا تفتوى دلخا حتى ندلخا بقى أخذ صحف كنت منتاي كبرتي معها مخانا سلاد فلتكو أي كألكم كتصحف نمنتاي لأنه إتي حبرناتي حصوري كنت تخبري نايتي حجرناك أيقونا فتمنيت أن يكون من ذهب يعني يا ريت تحبرناتي سخاب ورق تدخون بورق يا أخذ صحفه ما يحجرك إنتاج مالتي جن حصوري حبري حصوري حبرها حصوري استخا ورقة بلانها جن أنا خاني دم تدخون تحبري يمنه بتدمي يركب متحف هاي يركب زربة هاي تهجر فهي دي يعني
تقالت مسأتو دحرنات النت انتايلا مسانستم اتيوم او مسا عتنا دنبرم وليدوم لهم يوم عندنا انستم يوم حجي طبعا كنت زبلو دك نسينا اشتراكيهم ميك اب دغبرا خدان صدق زغبرا غلملك مسقطرا دوربيوم معناتهم نفتن ገንዘብ دلون نفتن ميك اب زغبرا نفتن حجي خاطاتهم حنتي بوري يكون سميعيا نحنا بسعوديه كلنا مصيان كني تقادرت خدت سلسته زخنا صراحه مصيان قلعت حديقين حجي نحنا سنتين مصيان حجي نحنا تقادرتنا ناخذ بعنا نجينا نعمل كم زغيرو انتم مسؤول حجي تساب في ገንዘብ سنتين خمخانو تقدان انت خمخانوس يعني طعم يعني تستخدمه اليوم سرعنا ساكن كبانا ملك عنا يكونن نحنا تقادرنا نعطينا خمسنا جن اصلنا نعقوم الناس ولدنا كلنا تقادرنا كلنا ما نفس بقنيرنا جن نسرح نسينا حجي سرعنا تخدينا ميك اب جنا خنور يوم إلى زنا أحزننا أنا شعين كم يمكن نقرانا خلاص أو ماي جاد نبي حق بقينا نبي حق بقينا أنا سيريس لذي بق دا سنتك ومشي من دا بقي عند الزربان هذا إذا كل عام تدح الفؤوس كله فقري إذا كله حماء نستاهل
مع نستاهل الناس سنتها مسكينة أنا بكتما زنا برا سنتين قولنا عرين ميك اب كيرن
لا بس سبوتي جنزد من الناس
مدبلت تسي
زي أسبوتي
ناس سبوتي جاي عندك اسم رخمة كونسيدر جبران عندك خميلة دمتساسي يعني مالسي
exactly
It's no, I can't blame not that كل نجار مثلا تقول ناتهم position ناتهم سرحان قالت الحزانير and they wouldn't lose ناتهم respect أي مقدر النيرو plus
the thing is this as well it's دقة على سلونا كتمادين نقال زنبرا as well إزي جايو تقبروا وصاين قبولوني you know حبينا كم أنا نزارب نيرنا as well كبرتنا سنقولاتنا because if نحدا خم غيرو نتي أهم خم غابريو what goes around comes around you know you don't do it on only one.
It didn't last long anyway.
There was one was it Asma or in the villages in the highlands anyway straight after independence he dumped his wife who he had 2 children by and he married a girl from the village near Asmara, and the woman, the ex-EPLF Tagadalik Senavara, she got ተወሊእዎም ማለት እዩ ኣብቲ ናቱ መርኣ ምስቲ ኣኻለ ንኡ ኸይዳ ቀቲላ ነቲ ኣመርኣት ቀቲላ ድሃሪነ ነብሳ ቀቲላ دهارة تقوم قصود زوالو من خعبيون. So there is psychological effect of this. It's not
But I think the issue is at any time, a lot of the time as women, we attach ourselves, our value to the men. You know, and it's something that is suffered throughout. Because I remember reading a book and it was about, I think it was about. Something about Hinduism and their beliefs and stuff, and then there was a story there where it says that a man met a woman in a forest, and he said to her, "Who owns you?" Because that's the understanding they have. Everyone is owned by her father or husband or brother, etc. And she said to him, "I'm not owned by anyone. I'm a soul. I'm owned by my creator." And it's amazing. It's something that was written, I don't know how many thousands years ago. And that in itself, that shows you that there's something lost. We forget that we are created equally. We're different because we have our own different qualities. And we add something,